first, we have congressional drama.
We have
that
a
we have to
Speaker
cover.
of the House, people. It is finally here. We finally have a Speaker of the House. The Republicans have somehow pulled themselves together and voted in Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House in a unanimous vote. This is the first time since, I believe, 2011 or 2013, somewhere around there, where a Speaker of the House has been voted in unanimously by the Republican Party with John Boehner for the first time. Mike Johnson, guy comes out of nowhere. I'll go into him in a second, but first, I kind of want to talk about what the hell happened to Tom Emmer. So Tom Emmer was like the third in line to the crown, right? You had Kevin McCarthy, you had Steve Scalise, and then you had Tom Emmer. These were like the Republican leaders, you know? So it was very natural for everyone to say, okay, you didn't like McCarthy, you didn't like Scalise, we gave you Jim Jordan, you didn't like Jim Jordan, let's give you Tom Emmer next. And then Tom Emmer becomes the speaker designate. He's voted in by the Republican conference to become the speaker, but there's like 22, 26 holdouts that just are never going to support him. Then Donald Trump comes out, tweets that he's never going to support Tom Emmer, and in the next couple hours, Tom Emmer just drops out of the race entirely. Didn't even last a day. And
this happened in the middle of our last recording session.
yeah, I had to come in the middle of the recording sessions. I'm like, Ben, dude, like he was in a work meeting and I came in. I'm like, dude, Tom Emmer's is out. Like the whole thing that we just recorded is now useless because it's not even relevant anymore. It moved too fast. But now Tom Emmer's gone. And I want to kind of give some insight into why Tom Emmer's gone. Because the truth is he's gone because he was not radical enough for the far right. And here is just one glimpse of an example. This is a quote from Representative Rick Allen from Georgia. This is his quote. Here is what I said. I said, Jesus spelled out exactly what marriage looks like. I basically shared with him my thoughts on many votes he's taken. And you know, I don't criticize anybody for votes they take. But as far as for me voting for the leader of our conference, that's a difference maker. I told him it wasn't between he and I. It was between he and the teachings of Jesus Christ. Now, this is in reference to Tom Emmer's support of gay marriage and his votes for the Defense of Marriage Act, which codified same-sex marriage into law, like, you know, to protect it from a Supreme Court overruling of the Obergefell decision. So this guy was like, I'm not going to make you speaker because you like gay people too much. You can't make this stuff up, dude.
Yeah, it's brutal.
No, you just can't make it up. I mean,
it upsets me that it went through, that it worked. Because on previous discussions, we've said like the more quote unquote moderate wing of the Republican Party doesn't want to reward the bad behavior of this populist right wing and give them a speaker. And that is exactly what happened. Scalise dropped out because of Jordan. Emmer dropped out, and they replaced him with Mike Johnson.
Yeah, and it's they're rewarding bad behavior. You're just going to see this type of stuff more often now because now all the right wingers are like, oh my God, wait a second, Matt Gaetz was right all along. You know, it's like, wait a second, everyone's scratching their head, being like, we were all laughing at Matt Gaetz, but Matt Gaetz actually got to basically decide who the next Speaker of the House was because he was such an asshole. You know, and so what does that encourages everyone to be an asshole? So this is not going to bode well for the future of the House of Representatives as an institution. It's going to be a nightmare. And it's only going to get worse if we keep letting stuff like this fly. Obviously, people also thought that Tom Emmer was so much of a swamp guy. He was definitely going to support Ukraine aid. He was been in Congress for a long time. Like, you know, he's been around he's in the leadership positions. He's nosying up to all the big donors. That's like the right wing's vibe of this guy. So they go with Mike Johnson instead. And so who is Mike Johnson? He has been in office for only 6 years, which is making him the Speaker of the House with the shortest resume in about 100 years. So that's a pretty big deal. They're electing a newbie of newbies here.
Yeah.
6 years in the House of Representatives is nothing. Now, people say that's great. You know, I talk to some Republicans and they're like, I love that. I love that he's not involved because the people who are involved are the problem. That's a bad mindset because that means you don't know how anything works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's never been the chairman of a committee. He's never had any leadership positions ever.
But it does follow the hard right.
Oh, of course.
Right? it is exactly what they want. They want someone who doesn't belong.
Right. It follows perfectly with their brand. They want the inexperienced because the experience is the problem, right? Well, let's see how far that takes them.
Yeah.
What's notable about Mike Johnson is he's not in the Freedom Caucus. He is as far right as the Freedom Caucus, and he actually has the exact same voting record as Jim Jordan, like the exact same voting record. It's like one and the same.
Wow.
Which is so funny to me. All these moderate Republicans, like Mike Lawler over in New York. Are you serious, dude? You said Jim Jordan was too far right, but Mike Johnson isn't? They have the exact same voting record.
Did Lawler say that?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no. What do you mean did he say that? He didn't vote
about
for Jim
Jordan.
Well, he didn't vote for Jim Jordan.
Oh. See, I don't think that's what I mean. I think the reason that Johnson went through, and we talked about this a little bit on the last podcast, is he just didn't bully people as much. He didn't tell all of the constituents of the people who didn't vote for him, call their offices relentlessly. He didn't threaten them with primarying. Mike Johnson is just a guy, which is kind of why he's also able to kind of float into this position like this.
Yes,
I think.
I totally agree with you, but that's my problem. Like they weren't making these decisions based off policy.
Oh yeah,
they were only making these decisions based off vibes.
Yeah,
it's like it makes no sense to me. Like if I were to want to pick who I want to be my leader, I'm gonna look at the things they support and say, okay, do I agree with you? Yes or no? These guys are like, are you gonna be mean to me? Are you gonna bully me? Yeah, you're gonna bully me. I'm not gonna vote for you if you're gonna bully me. That's not nice.
Yeah.
What is this? This is like kindergarten level politics here.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating.
It's kindergarten level, but it's also started by the right wing because there is an implicit expectation that once the conference chooses a speaker behind closed doors, you unite and you vote for them. Right. So it's their fault for breaking the norm in the first place.
Oh, of course. But it just kind of underlines this massive point is like, there really is no moderate Republican. At the end of the day, they're all going to vote for a guy like Mike Johnson.
Exactly.
Right. There really is no moderate Republican at that point. There is no Republican that should feel, there is no Democrat or independent who votes for a Republican in a Biden seat because they're moderate, because you have to understand that they're going to support leadership that is as far right as the furthest right member of Congress now.
Yeah.
That's where they're at. So what is Mike Johnson? I could say that he's right wing, and I could say that he's a lunatic and all this stuff. I could say all that to you, and you would be right not to believe me if I didn't provide you with evidence. So let's go down some of the major issues, and we can talk about where he's at. So let's start with gay marriage. He calls gay marriages counterfeit legal arrangements. In the mid-2000s, Johnson's anti-gay rhetoric was intense. Now, it is 2004 when he says this, so we'll give him that. But this is his true ideology. He says that he wrote in support of a Louisiana amendment banning same-sex marriage, and this is what he said: homosexual relationships are inherently unnatural, and the studies clearly show that they are ultimately harmful and costly for everybody. Society cannot give its stamp of approval to such a dangerous lifestyle. If we change marriage for this tiny modern minority, we will have to do it for every deviant group. Polygamists, polyamorists, pedophiles, and others will be next in line to claim equal protection. They already are. There will be no legal basis to deny a bisexual the right to marry a partner of each sex or a person to marry his pet. So he is equating gay marriage with marrying your pets. He's collating it. He's equating it to pedophilia. And then he goes even further here in a different statement. He talks about how it's going to be the downfall of democracy if we allow gay marriage. He says the state and its citizens have a compelling interest in preserving the integrity of the marital union by making opposite-sex marriage the exclusive form of family relationships endorsed by the government. Loss of this status will de-emphasize the importance of traditional marriage to society, weaken it, and place our entire democratic system in jeopardy by eroding its foundation.
How is he making this jump?
Dude, I literally have no idea. The guy's crazy. How could you say that? How does gay marriage equal the demise of democracy?
Yeah, I have no idea.
And it just underscores his whole belief system. He's literally on video saying we need 18th century morality back. What does 18th century morality even mean?
That's 18th century morality is slavery. It's no voting for women. That's ridiculous.
Like, why? So why is anybody taking him seriously? Is what freaks me out.
Yeah.
Why are we looking at a guy who's like, I want 18th century morality back. I want my woman barefoot, pregnant, in the kitchen with a black guy making me dinner. Why are we looking at that guy and be like, oh, he's our leader now? It's insanity. Why would you say something like that? Why would you say something like that? He goes on to write in a different editorial years later that experts project that homosexual marriage is the dark harbinger of chaos and sexual anarchy that could doom even the strongest republic.
What?
You know what this sounds like to me? This sounds like a teenager who's talking about politics for the first time. And he's like, he read about Rome twice.
Yeah.
And he no, it's just
to me, this sounds like someone in our Instagram comments.
Oh, true. Oh man, you know what? Maybe those are the guys who are electing speaker behind the scenes. It's the guys in our Instagram comments.
Yeah. Hey, at least they're watching.
Yeah, at least they're watching.
Yeah.
That's true. And they're engaging.
Yeah.
So they're the real fools.
Uh-huh.
He voted against the Defense of Marriage Act,
Yeah.
which didn't just protect same-sex marriage. It also protected interracial marriage.
Really?
Yeah. So
Oh.
I mean, just whack, dude. Just absolutely whack. Okay. So then let's go on about what's his position on women's rights. This is a quote from him. Do you remember in the late 60s when they invented things like no-fault divorce laws? We invented the sexual revolution, radical feminism. We invented legalized abortion in 1973, where the state sanctioned the killings of the unborn. We know that we're living in a completely amoral society. It's people say, how can a young person go into their school and open fire on their classmates? Because we taught a whole generation, couple generations now, that there is no right and wrong. So I want to break this sentence. I want to break this paragraph down here. So the theme of this is school shootings happen because of radical feminism, the sexual revolution. Sounds like this guy wasn't having a lot of sex. Legalized abortion and no-fault divorce laws. Those things are causing mass shootings and school shootings. That's his.
Well, I think it's more they are eliminating a sense of right and wrong.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
So then that's interesting to me. What is right and wrong about no-fault divorce?
Yeah, they sound like very terrible examples. No-fault divorce, the sexual revolution, radical feminism, legalization of abortion.
And those things are...
I mean, we don't know what's right and wrong.
Right.
Because clearly... Okay, I mean, the biggest one to me, obviously, is radical feminism.
Yeah.
Like, how are you just putting that out there in a sentence where it's assumed that has fallen into the wrong side?
Right.
Right?
Like, what is it about the radical feminism that you're angry about here?
Yeah.
Is it the voting? Is it the going to work?
Yeah. Is it the equal pay?
Yeah. Like, what is it about radical feminism that gets your fucking tighty whities in a knot, dude? Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, radical feminism can go too far, so maybe that's what he could be talking about. But still, it's not like when he just says these in a sentence, I feel like, sure, if you watch Fox News, you read the sentence and it's like, oh, that makes all the sense in the world to me.
That's so true.
Right? But otherwise, you read it and it's like, I'm not sure what he's getting at because it just doesn't make sense.
Like an independent reading this would be like, I don't even know what half the words in the sentence mean, right? Like that's so then the one that I really want to focus on for a second here is this no-fault divorce thing. So no-fault divorce is, when any partner of a marriage can say, I don't want to be in this marriage anymore, I'm leaving you.
Mm-hmm.
So he's against that? Like he's against the concept of no-fault divorce?
Yeah.
No-fault divorce was super important for the liberation of women because women were stuck in abusive, violent, scary, financially crippling marriages.
Yeah.
They didn't have the opportunity to leave, right? So with no-fault divorce, you now gave those women a way out of bad marriages. And also, it's just better for everybody if they're able to say, you know what, this isn't a working arrangement for my life anymore. I want to change. Mm-hmm. It's about, liberating yourself. And no-fault divorce has been attacked by Republican politicians lately.
Yeah.
In the Texas Republican Party, in its 2022 party platform, actually proposes to rescind the unilateral no-fault divorce laws and support covenant marriages, and to pass legislation extending the period of time in which a divorce may occur to 6 months after the date of filing a divorce. So
I've heard this from a lot of Republicans, I think, including presidential candidates like Vivek.
You have?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because the idea is there's tons of studies that show that children who grow up without a man in the house either are more likely to do drugs, they perform worse in school, they are more likely to be imprisoned at some point. So they want to change the laws to make it harder for a man to leave the home. But what they propose is, so this is proposing like trapping women or men in marriages that they don't want.
Yes.
Right, to do that, which is I think very problematic.
It's probably worse for the kid, right? I mean, if we want to,
Yes.
if we're talking about protecting the kid, do you want to be in a household where your mom and dad are fighting all the time? Absolutely not. That's
No.
way worse.
Exactly. I know plenty of people just anecdotally that are glad that their parents got divorced because they couldn't imagine their parents staying together.
Exactly.
But also, one of the iterations of this idea is to stop incentivizing single motherhood by giving them tax breaks or welfare.
Yeah, sure.
And that's wild to me.
Wild.
Because I think it completely, again, it's like, okay, you can get out of this relationship that you don't like or that is harmful to you. But if you do, we're not going to help you. Right? Like,
crazy.
even though you're leaving yourself in what is probably a worse financial situation. Yeah.
I mean, you have Republican senators right now, J.D. Vance, that were, on the campaign trail saying, like, some women will have to put up with a little bit of abuse in marriages or, like, will have to work through it. And, like, that's kind of like, it's just insane to me that we're talking about no-fault divorce in 2023.
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
that is crazy.
It's just, it's such a radical shift back to the past. Like, it's such a regressive, reactionary force right now.
Yeah.
So now let's go on to what he talks about abortion. He supports a national abortion ban starting at 20 weeks, but he indicates that life begins at conception. So when Republicans are going out saying that, oh, I support a 20-week abortion ban nationwide, if they also think that life begins at conception and holds that belief, what would make them stop at 20 weeks if they had full unilateral power? Why would they do that? If they truly believe that the life begins right after conception, everything after that is murder, why would they allow a 7-week abortion? Why would they do that? If that's truly your belief that it's murder, they wouldn't be doing that. They'll take as much as they can get.
So you're saying they're only saying this as a political
Yeah, they're only saying the 20-week because it's what they can say out loud without getting absolutely ran over in the voting booth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he has also said plenty of times that abortion is a sin and all that, So he also makes the weirdest argument for being anti-abortion, saying that we need more workers to prop up Social Security and Medicare. So the less abortions will help us keep these programs solvent.
See, I've heard ideas like this too.
Oh, really?
Not just about programs like this solvent, but it's like our economy is based on a population that consistently grows. So we need to make it harder for people not to have children. Yeah.
Well, luckily in the U.S. we have a birth rate of like 1.6. Replacement is 2.1. 1.6 is like one of the best in the developed world.
Yeah.
China is at like 1.1, maybe even less than that, because if you believe their stats, I don't know. But again, it's one of those things where you're like, ugh.
It's like, this is what we should change the system around.
Yeah.
Not what we should change people's behavior to conform to.
And it's like, we've already talked about how to keep Social Security and Medicare solvent. You raise taxes. You raise taxes on rich people to keep Medicare and Social Security solvent. Yeah. You eliminate the cap at $160,000 on your FICA taxes, and bam, Social Security is solvent for like 90-something, 70 years or something. Okay? That's the answer. It's not to force women to have more babies.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane to me, dude.
That is crazy.
It's like, it's just nuts. And then he also, obviously, he's not just against abortion. He's also against contraception. Johnson also opposed the Right to Contraception Act that the House approved last year before the Republicans gained control. So he wants women to not at all be able to control their reproductive cycle at all.
Yeah.
Because it's the will of God. So, God damn, dude. Like, I'm a kind of religious guy. Like, I am, Like, I read the Bible. Unironically. This is just nuts. There's no, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Then let's go over to what he talks about Social Security. So besides forcing women to have babies that they don't want, he has other plans on how to save Social Security. During his tenure as the Republican Study Committee between 2019 and 2021, Representative Mike Johnson helped craft budget resolutions that called for a $2 trillion cut in Medicare and a $3 trillion cut in Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act and a $750 billion cut in Social Security. This, over the course of the next couple decades out to 2091, this results in a 31% cut in overall spending for these programs. How do you create this 31% cut? Three major things. You raise the retirement age from 67 to 69. You reduce benefits for above average earners, which sounds okay, right? I read that one. Reduce benefits for above average earners. All right, that sounds all right. Eliminating the cost living adjustments for those with higher incomes and using a chain-weighted inflation index for those who qualify for cost of living. So reducing the cost of living increases. All of that initially, you're like, okay, wait. Retirement age going up is bad, but reducing benefits for the above average earners, that sounds okay. And the article that I got this information from says, at a first glance, one might conclude that that's a fine outcome, but the median worker who sees benefits drops to 77% of current law had career average earnings of $58,000 in 2022. That's the person that they're talking about that's going to have benefit cuts.
Oh.
And then when they talk about high earners who sees benefits drop to 40% of current law, those people earn $94,000 a year. Those are not rich people.
No.
Those are not high income people.
That is smack dab in the middle.
That is smack dab in the middle. You want to talk about, let's look at the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
What's the average household income in Massachusetts? Probably $70,000. What would you guess?
Yeah, maybe in the state. It's hard from us being in the city. I think the poverty line almost is being a single person in a household at $78,000.
Right. Yeah. So it's nuts to me that that's their solution to Social Security. Again, it's raise the retirement age and cut benefits for people who make under $100,000.
Yeah.
Like that's their solution. It's a 31% cut to Social Security over the course of 100 years. So the next part that I want to talk about that is not having to do with legislation or how he's going to be as a leader in the House of Representatives. Let's talk about how he's going to be a leader on the campaign trail, because being the Speaker of the House is not just a political process here. It's not just a political thing. It's also you're running the national campaigns for the Republican Party. You have to raise a lot of money. And so far, Mike Johnson has not proved that he's able to raise the money needed. So in 2016, the average House candidate raised $1.7 million. Mike Johnson raised $1.1 million. Wait, what did I say? Did I say that right? The average House candidate raised $1.7 million in 2016. Mike Johnson raised $1.3 million. Okay, in 2022, the average House candidate raised $3 million. Mike Johnson raised $1.3 million. He is 50% below the average House legislature right now in terms of fundraising dollars. That is not going to bode well when now he's the leader of the party, because he doesn't have the connections to make these types of calls that get the money in that McCarthy was able to get in.
Yeah, there's a quote in this article where the author had reached out, the reporter had reached out to an advisor of one of the biggest donors to the Republican Party, and the advisor asked about his relationship with Mike Johnson, and the advisor said, "Never heard of him. I'm looking him up right now."
God, that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
No, it's a nightmare. So Kevin McCarthy has this is the type of difference we're talking about here. Kevin McCarthy, cash on hand, has $10 million on hand right now. Mm-hmm. Steve Scalise, $5.8 million cash on hand right now. Jim Jordan, $8.5 million. Mike Johnson, $1.1. Oh my God, dude, that's so bad.
Yeah.
Kevin McCarthy has been able to raise so much money for the Republicans in the House. Mike Johnson is just not going to be able to pick up that slack.
I mean, we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, no, I think he might have a chance. I don't want to indict him on this too soon.
Okay.
Because he's a representative from a small, poor Louisiana district.
That's true.
Right? So he hasn't needed much money to support himself. Now that he's in this role, he's going to be asked to do a lot more fundraising. Maybe he'll still suck at it, but I don't know if this is going to be prescriptive. Although what it means is it's not there on his resume. So there's no reason to be sure that he will be good at it.
Right. And one of the benefits that Kevin McCarthy has was that he was from California.
Yes.
You're from California. You're from a rich state. You have a lot of rich friends. You can make those phone calls. Mike Johnson doesn't have those same friends that can call up.
Mm-mm.
It's just going to be hard. I think it's going to be hard for him to make those friends very quick.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, it's the way I think about it. Scalise and McCarthy are going to have to be in there with him, like putting him in front of these faces, in front of these donors, making him network, because they don't want to do all of the fundraising work that a speaker has to do if they're not the speaker.
Oh, no.
Right? Of course not.
No.
But
and people aren't even going to give Kevin McCarthy that much money if he's not going to be the speaker.
Yes.
It's like it's also buying access. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's also like, buying friends with the Speaker of the House.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think Johnson won't be so terrible.
I agree.
In his role.
I agree. His numbers will definitely go up.
No, but the idea is that like a good fundraising speaker helps the whole conference and like makes it easier for more of the representatives in the conference to solicit donations from these people. So the question is, does Johnson help with that? And
Right.
we'll have to see.
That's going to be interesting because he just doesn't have the network yet. So that's Mike Johnson, very religious, very fundamentalist guy. He comes from the Christian right wing. He's not a big fundraiser, but we'll see if he can change on that. And now all of these guys, Mike Lawler from New York, he's being tied to the furthest right elements of the Republican Party, and it's going to make it a lot harder for these frontline Republicans to win.
Yeah.
All right.